to very quickly introduce myself. My name is Barbara Martinez Guerrero, and I am the Executive Director of Dream & Green. For those of you who can see the screen, Dream & Green's mission is to empower individuals to lead in the response to climate change and other environmental challenges facing South Florida. We've been around since 2006, and our two main programs are the Green Schools Challenge, where we work with schools in Miami-Dade County and Broward County to integrate environmental literacy into the curriculum, and our WELOD, Water and Energy Learning and Behavior Program, where we reach out to residents and do hour-long workshops concentrating on water and energy conservation, as well as waste management and recycling, and how all of that is connected to climate change. I am really happy that we are seeing more attendees joining us today, and I'm gonna just let the poll for another 15 more seconds. And then I'm gonna share the results, and I will hand it over to our moderators for the evening. Perfect, I'm gonna end the poll now, and I'm going to share results with everybody joining us and our panelists, so you can see, which is great to see. We have a couple of students and teachers with us, and some additional attendees, and we're glad you're here. So with that, I am happy to turn it over to Diego Cancel, which will be one of our moderators for the evening.
Awesome, thank you, Barbara. So that's really cool, actually, to see the results. We have a lot of students. That's definitely a good sign to see. I got my separate screen over here, so I'm watching you guys here, but my screen is over there. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Honestly, it is a cold night here in Miami. I'm sure all of us have been a little bit chilly. My name is Diego Cancel. I am the program coordinator for Dream & Green, like Barbara just introduced. Thank you. And I am the co-moderator for tonight's event. And I will let Ana introduce herself. She will be co-moderating with me. And if you would like to say something really quick.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ana Pereira. Like Diego said, I was actually Dream & Green's Miami-Dade County Public Schools summer intern, and I go to John A. Ferguson Senior High School. I'm graduating this year, and I will be the co-moderator of this event.
Awesome. I will introduce our panel for tonight's event. Barbara, if you could move on to our next slide. So first we have Ben Weinstein. He is a registered architect, lead accredited professional, and the co-facilitator of the International Living Futures Collaborative in Florida. Currently, he is with Miami County Public Schools as Senior Design Manager in the Office of Design and Sustainability, working to deliver the General Obligation Bond and green design and operations of the district. So next we have Pilar Carvajal. Next slide. Awesome. So Pilar Carvajal has a master's in science degree from the London School of Economics and Bachelor of Arts from the Smiths College. She sits on the Florida Assisted Living Association Board, the Miami Chamber of Commerce Healthcare Committee, the Beacon Council, Small Business Committee, and City of Miami Beach Affordable Housing Committee. Ms. Carvajal has spent her career managing the strategic development and day-to-day operations in the affordable and middle market senior living space. So thank you for being with us. Next slide, please. Our next presenter will be, our next panelist will be Teddy Lhoutellier. He is a graduate magna cum laude from Florida International University, holding a master's degree in environmental studies in energy policy. He also holds a lead green associate and a project management professional certificate. He worked for 4 years as an environmental science and environmental policy instructor at Florida International University, and was the outreach coordinator for Miami-based solar panel distributors. So thank you, all three of you, for being with us. A little applause for you guys really quick. And I want to finish up with one more person. She will be doing our opening remarks. She wasn't able to be here with us, but she has a video for us. So she is Commissioner Nikki. She is a lifelong Floridian attorney and passionate activist. She graduated from the University of Florida, where she received her bachelor's, master's, and Juris Doctorate degree. Throughout her career, she has served in numerous organizations, including the Legal Needs of Children's Bar Committee, Girl Scouts of South Florida, University of Florida Governmental Relations Advisory Committee, and the Florida's Children's First, and a few more. So without further ado, she will be doing our opening remarks for us tonight. Sometimes it's a second until it's cooking.
I want to take a moment to thank Dream of Green's members and staff for facilitating this Healthy Spaces for Our Community town hall to help promote a healthy community during COVID-19. A lot of people might not realize just how important agriculture is to our daily lives, to the food we eat and the people who produce it. Steady access to healthy nutrition is already a challenge across our state, especially in South Florida. 3 million Floridians struggle with food insecurity, including 850,000 kids who don't know where their next meal may come from. And that was before this pandemic. Food deserts are rampant throughout our state, and COVID-19 poses a big threat to the farm workers who work every day in fields and packing houses to produce farm fresh food. At the same time, this unprecedented pandemic is a threat to everyone's health, safety, and well-being. So I want to share a little today about what our department has been doing to help Florida protect our food supply, our consumers, and children, and create healthier workspaces. For generations, Florida farmers have successfully faced challenges like hurricanes, droughts, and wildfires. And although growers are innovators, they have never faced a challenge supply chains were upended, and growers could not access markets to sell their crops. With a lot of these crops perishable, this led to growers being forced to let their livelihoods rot in the fields. Demand from large purchasers like hotels, cruise lines, and theme parks, which many producers rely on, fell drastically. And our farmers across our state suffered significant crop losses, which led to financial losses of over $500 million just through April. So we had to get creative and think fast to help our food producers. We created new resources like our Florida Farm to You Commodities Exchange to help connect consumers directly to producers and move Florida-grown products to consumers in the community. We've worked with retailers like Publix, Walmart, Whole Foods, and Sprouts, as well as state agencies to purchase more Florida-grown food. We've also launched Keep Florida Growing, a one-stop online portal with COVID-19 and agriculture-related information for Florida's farmers, ranchers, consumers, and the media. As I mentioned, keeping farm workers safe from COVID-19 has also been a major priority for us. 150 million Americans rely on the food we grow. We submitted recommendation to the governor's reopening task force, asking that farm workers have PPE, access to health care, and COVID-19 testing, and are able to social distance when out in the fields. We've issued safety guidelines for food workers to keep them safe and you as well. Ahead of the fall harvest season, we launched a 9-part video series to provide guidance on COVID-19 safety precautions for farm workers. The safety guidance, available in both English and Spanish, includes best practices on how to stay safe from COVID, from fields to packing houses and beyond. Farm workers are essential. They feed our families and our communities, but they face an elevated risk of respiratory illnesses like COVID-19 and often lack access to health resources. That's why we've been working with the Florida Division of Emergency Management the University of Florida, and local governments around the state to bring additional COVID-19 testing to agricultural counties. These efforts are essential for public health, food security, and our economy, because Florida can't come back from this pandemic without healthy workers and a consistent and secure food supply. One of our most vulnerable populations, and one I care deeply about, is our children. Our department oversees Florida's $1.3 billion school lunch program. And for many of these kids, these are the only daily meals in which they can count on. So when schools closed due to COVID-19, we jumped into overdrive to make sure Florida's children had a dependable source for nutritious meals. In March, we activated over 2,500 summer break spots statewide that helped serve 74 million free meals for children from March through August. In working with federal partners, we're continuing those meal operations as many students have transitioned into distance learning, while allowing for safe food pickup in accordance with CDC safety guidelines. Even while this pandemic reaches record levels, people still are having to go to work, to shop, and more. So as Florida's consumer protection watchdog, our department regulates over 40,000 stores, markets, convenience stores, and gas stations. And we've asked every one of them to do extra sanitizing and make disinfectant wipes available for customers. It's also important to me that we set an example of COVID-19 safety for workplaces across the state. So our department has taken extra measures to keep our staff safe, allowing personnel whose positions can be done remotely to telework, and instituting enhanced measures like plexiglass barriers, appointment-based scheduling, and mandatory mask wearing in our offices that are open to the public. Ultimately, it comes down to every one of us to protect ourselves and each other from this virus. So as we close, I want to make a personal ask of you and everyone you know. Please wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, be kind to each other, and look out for one another. We've got to be all in this together. That's how we'll come back from this. So thank you to Dream in Green for all that you're doing, and together we'll keep Florida growing.
President-elect Joe Biden is continuing.
Awesome. So thank you for Commissioner Nikki for giving us those opening remarks. So we are going to go ahead and get started with our questions. First, I wanted to go over how tonight is going to go flow-wise and how we want these questions to go. So it's very simple. It's a round robin style. We're going to start each question with a specific person, but we would like for all the panelists to answer them. And then if there's any follow-up questions, I will either bring them up, or at the end of the presentation, we'll bring some more questions up. So without further ado, for the first question, Ben, we would like for you to answer this one first, and then everybody else. How should we manage shared spaces like classrooms, workspaces, stadiums, and other spaces?
Well, first off, let me say thank you for this opportunity to share ideas with my talented colleagues on this forum panel. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope everybody here learned something. Second, I wanted to extend a very warm, heartfelt thank you to Dream in Green. On behalf of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, we're forever indebted to your leadership and purpose of environmental literacy and advocacy to our students and staff, instilling in them with a sense of urgency and to action. We can't thank you enough. So I had to start with that. To dive into the question, again, this past year has really made us understand what the word pivot means. I had never used that in my vocabulary before, and now it comes up almost every day. From a pandemic-related issue, we always need to listen to experts and follow facts and not chase people's opinions. That's been the biggest struggle we've had, is that everybody seems to have an opinion and we never know what the experts are telling us. So I think, again, to take it beyond what we're talking about with the pandemic, I think we now need to pivot to creating a sense of urgency around creating healthy spaces and a healthy interior and exterior environment. When we build these will create a resilience for all types of stressors that occur, like a pandemic or climate change or anything that's thrown our way. And I think the best way for us as design professionals, I'm an architect by training, and I dabble in a lot of other things, but I'm now on the client side of things. Building rating or certification systems focused on sustainability are a crucial blueprint to help design teams to create a sustainable focus to projects. So, LEED is one that everybody knows. I'll call it the OG. We owe a lot to LEED to be the trailblazer in changing a focus towards new decision-making based on sustainable terminology as a common language. But we've recently noticed that there's some shortcomings on building types and depth. So Collaborative for High Performance Schools, or CHIPS, focuses directly on schools, which is applicable to the work we do. But it's based on a very similar approach to LEED. WELL has really jumped beyond that, and it really gives a good focus to what we're talking about here with shared spaces. It focuses on health and human well-being, which is a wonderful new way to focus on design and sustainability within design. But I'd be remiss without talking about the International Living Futures. It's the world's most rigorous rating system and transparency programs. If you've heard of the Living Building Challenge, the Living Community Challenge, the Living Product Challenge, and transparency programs like Declare, Reveal, and Just are reimagining the way we as humans can create a regenerative future, to do more good instead of trying to do less bad. Again, all the other things are trying to do less bad. So I just wanted to focus on one thing, which is the classroom, which is, I guess, again, my expertise, where I'm coming from, my viewpoint on an everyday basis. I want to look a little closer at that. I think the things we need to focus on are our choice of healthy materials. As children in these spaces and adolescents are extremely susceptible to the effects of these poor air quality issues. We need to, as anybody who has the effect on these spaces, to choose materials that support human health, that are regenerative in their approach to nature. Don't select products that are known carcinogens and have negative effects on impact of health, human health. The ILFI does this very well with the materials red list. We need to choose finished products and FF&E products, again, because these are the closest to us, that have EPDs, environmental product declarations, and HPDs, health product declarations, and that represent the highest level of green level certifications, because external groups have done a very good job of this, like Cradle to Cradle and the Living Product Challenge. As far as just the environments that these are concerned, healthy HVAC systems, or heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, are our key to allowing the building to breathe and creating a life system for the building. So I just want to kind of leave you with a big idea that we've been focusing on a lot in the sustainability world, is the idea of decoupling your heating and cooling needs from your ventilation systems. And what that means is you get to create a dedicated outdoor air system with energy recovery that provides constant fresh air, but takes advantage of the passing the other airflow, the return airflow past that, in order to temper the air to be more energy efficient, so you get healthy air, energy efficiency, and then you can more easily deal with heating and cooling on an energy efficiency basis. It's the healthiest, it's the safest, it's the most energy efficient way to do things. And again, as professionals and people in the industry, we should always be thinking that way.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Pilar, I saw you nodding your head a little bit. So if you want to take this question next, how should we manage shared spaces like classroom, workspaces, and stadiums, and others?
Well, and thank you for inviting me to speak here. So my business is the business of taking care of seniors. So I own and operate senior living properties. And when COVID hit, we obviously couldn't send anyone home. We had to kind of sit and bear it and learn how to keep the residents safe. And it wasn't just keeping them safe, it was literally how to keep them from dying from the virus. And so I think we are kind of a bit of a petri dish, in the sense that we really had to, I guess we were thrown to the wolves a little bit. We had to learn very quickly how to deal with keeping people safe that are the most vulnerable to the virus. So I think we can be used as an example to learn from. And many times what we're doing is we're actually have to be in very close contact. So we have this additional dynamic when we take care of the seniors. We're literally very intimate with them. We're brushing their hair, we're helping them eat, we're bathing them. And the key to our success as an industry, so nursing homes and assisted livings, we all take care of seniors, is that we followed a lot of what we now know has to be done, which is wearing your masks, being socially distant whenever you can, to wash your hands. I mean, these were key pieces, but I think, and thanks to the government, at least in the state of Florida, we also started testing very early. And what that means is our resident population is there in the building, but our staff is coming in and out every day. And that's what causes the danger. And so unlike schools or unlike other environments that are not testing, I think that that's a key piece of keeping these environments safe. So we test our staff every 2 weeks. And if there is an outbreak, we then test residents and staff every week. And we're able to weed out and get out of the building and out of harm's way those people that are contagious. So I think that that's an important learning that we literally had to learn on the job.
Yeah, so increased testing and just access to it in the first place. That's
It's simple stuff.
Yeah.
It's simple stuff, but you have to be almost religious about it.
Yeah, and Teddy?
Thanks, Diego. Thanks, Anna. And thanks, Dreaming Green. Again, Ben did it at the beginning, but we never thank you enough for everything you do in the county. I have a picture there behind me, so that's echoing what Ben was saying. It's a LEED certified building that just opened in the fall. It's our residence building, Lakeside Village. We host 4,000 bed and is LEED Gold. What you see are green roofs. So that's one of the features, and energy HVAC system that have energy recoveries is also part of the reason why we went to gold. And it's a challenge, obviously. Just like what Pilar was saying, we got hit because a lot of students leave on campus. So our question was, what are we going to do? Like everybody else in the world, my parents and my grandma, 92 years old in France, that's where I'm from, that's where you hear the accent, got COVID and they survived. So she's not in a facility, but she lives with my parents. But 92 years old and she survived. She's in perfect health right now.
That's good news.
Yeah. So in terms of what we've done at I can just go quickly over a few things because Diego, you were asking about classrooms. So we decided obviously to do like a lot of other schools to offer flexibility. So we have right away we had online classes, hybrid classes. We had also the option for students to go back online. Once they were in person, they wanted to go back online, they could do that. And one of the big tasks over the summer was to de-densify classes. So we found, we basically framed 400 classrooms with much less furniture. So basically what we did is we removed furniture and stored them away. In classroom with fixed furniture, we have taken chairs offline. In classes with the no furniture, we basically remove furniture to ensure appropriate social distancing. We have been opening spaces that were underutilized to turn them into classroom. And one of the things we did also is to hire a vendor to install 4 outdoor tents on our lawns to host additional de-densified classes. We hired a dedicated group of technicians to perform disinfection of all classes, six nights per week with the EPA registered fogging systems. That's really for the building envelope itself, but we also, I guess we're going to talk about air quality in another question, but other things that we've done obviously is to ask, it's a requirement, it's mandatory to have face covering on campus. You cannot not have face covering. Food and drinks are not permitted in the classroom anymore. Each student, faculty, and staff received the safe return kit with the thermometer, hand sanitizer, info card, and fabric mask. We also put a lot of like 1,000 wellness shields in classes, but not only. We have also A-frames everywhere. Signage has been super important. So we have also a daily symptom checkers signage where before entering a building or a dining hall, for instance, the student, staff, or faculty, they need to prove that they're okay. So they need to go online and take the symptom checkers. And we converted a lot of our soap dispenser into hand-free devices. We installed more than 1,000 hand sanitizer and disinfecting wipes dispensers, and more. is in a good position. I understand that not every school can do that, but we thought, and under the leadership of President Frank, we thought that that was the appropriate way to be able to receive and to keep the door open. A lot of universities are, unfortunately, a lot of our ACC schools, they had to send back students. We stayed open and we were able to manage this pandemic pretty well. I think it's also, I have to recognize the fact that we have one of the world leaders in public health and someone who dealt with at least 4 pandemics already in his career as public health leader around the world. I'm talking about President Julio Frank. So thanks to him for his leadership also.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like that, very different but unique perspectives, I think. I like all of your answers, honestly. So let's move on to the rest of the questions. I will say this, I'm going to keep track of the time, and let's try to keep the answers less than 2 to 3 minutes-ish, just so we can get through all the questions, and we want to do a Q&A at the end for anybody in the audience. So Anna, take it away.
So I want to direct this question to Pilar, please. And I know you gave a little bit of like the general idea of what has been implemented so far in your sector, but I'd like to know what were some major obstacles that you had to overcome in implementing these different regulations, and how did you mitigate them?
So our properties are licensed by the state. So we are highly regulated industry. So I think that that was one of the things that actually helped us. So as the regulations, so as COVID kind of really came into focus, the regulations also did. And every day there was a new regulation and a new shift, a new pivot that we had to do in order to keep these environments safe. Unfortunately, what happened is that because we had to keep our populations in the building, we could not send people home. A lot of people got isolated, and I'm talking about our resident population. And so, you know, if they didn't die from COVID, they were dying from loneliness, because we had to go into a very safe mode with people in their rooms. We had to go feed them in their rooms. A lot of what we do is we help with isolation. We help with socialization in our business. And all of a sudden we found ourselves having to put people in their rooms and create very difficult situations for them. So that was an enormous challenge that we still deal with. And I think to some of Teddy's points, we did have to move our spaces around. So now we have congregate meal programs. We've reintroduced people being able to eat with one another, but instead of 4 people at the table, we've got 2 people on, you know, opposite sides of the table. So we're having to just make some adjustments, but obviously take into consideration the precautions that we need to, but it is a new normal that we have to live in. Now, the silver lining here obviously is the vaccinations are now on the horizon, and our residents and our staff have been prioritized to receive that vaccination. So hopefully we'll get started with that. But there's going to be another obstacle there as well, with residents and staff saying that they don't want to be vaccinated. So that's our new thing that we're going to be dealing with in terms of implementing the vaccinations going forward.
Yeah, I can definitely, I've read so many stories about geriatric centers and how devastating that has been in terms of socialization. You know, I've been separated from my grandma. It's tough. So I want to ask you, Ben, this same question of certain obstacles you faced in terms of MDCPS as an MDCPS student myself. So what's been going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, so again, what to do and how to deal with it and how it was going to affect our younger children. We're extremely lucky that for whatever reason, this crazy virus doesn't affect children as much as it does the older cohorts. So our biggest issue was more about making sure that that we didn't spread back home. So what we were trying to do is make sure and also protect our staff. So what we had done, we actually implemented something before the pandemic, and it was for a different reason. We knew it had positive benefits. And this is where some of these decisions around that I mentioned earlier create a resilience to stressors, is we implemented what's called bipolar ionization. So what that is that's a little unit that basically sits inside the air handling unit, and it spits out a ton of negative and positive ions. Those things float around in the air and it completely envelops the entire room. And what they do is because they either have an electron pulled away, or they're either a negative or positive charge, and they just attack anything that's in the air. So it does everything from pathogens to VOCs to any nasty that's floating around in the air, particulates that are coming from outside or that collect inside. So we had done it originally to pull back on our energy use, because then we don't have to use as much outdoor air. The secondary benefit we knew was cleaning the air, but now when the pandemic hit, we already had a solution that was implemented that was part of the solution. Now all we had to do was ramp up and get it into all the units we hadn't started touching yet. So that was our biggest. We have 400 schools, and how do you prioritize schools? How do you prioritize units? It was a very difficult rollout. So other things we did, we opened up our outdoor air intakes fully, just cranked them wide open so we get as much fresh air in as possible. That is a short-term emergency solution, but it has a real detriment to your energy use, because you're bringing in a lot of hot, warm, moist outdoor air that needs to be treated. The other thing we did was, and again, our biggest issue here is just how do we get this to all the schools, is we increased the filtration on our filters to MERV 13. MERV is a rating that tells you how much can get through that filter. The higher the number, the better. Typically, we have MERV 8 filters. So we went to MERV 13 filters, which is a massive change. But again, how do you get that out to all the schools? We know that that's going to help. But again, that's only helping when we start recirculating air back into the system. We also bought air purification units. These air purification units are similar to what the bipolar ionization does, but it actually has a triple filtration to it. Again, the biggest thing there is that we had to buy these, we had to get them in the classrooms. They start to make noise in the classrooms. They start to, they're another piece in the classroom. It's visible, that's good as well. But again, we have to change more filters. It's just a whole nother layer of maintenance that was created. There is also UV light that is available also that starts to kill some of these things, but humans we don't want to release it in the air so that everybody sees it. It also deteriorates things that you don't want to deteriorate, wire casings, all sorts of things inside equipment. So we've really focused ourselves on the bipolar ionization, the MERV 13, and those and those more outdoor air has been our focus.
Yeah, interesting. I'd like to ask Teddy for a little bit of a different perspective, because I know MDCPS is a huge public school district. It's like the third largest in the country. Fourth. Yeah, so huge, right? And since University of Miami is a private university, I want to know what kinds of different obstacles did you guys face?
Kind of the same ones that Pilar talked about. Ben mentioned a lot of the air quality issues. We faced pretty much the same thing, and we tried the same kind of techniques. Let's say definitely changing the filters to more dense filters. We decided to go UV light for a lot of equipment, but as you said, all kind of equipments. I'm talking about HVAC system. I would say that the challenge that we faced for us was during the summer, because our goal was to open in the fall. That was our goal, and everything has been on track. So despite everything, I think, and so the biggest challenge really was the identifications. When we had all those furnitures, all those chairs, where to put them. That was find the space, but also a suitable space, so that the furniture, all the equipment, the assets that we have don't deteriorate, because there's not enough ACs, and so definitely an issue. As far as a sustainability challenge, I would go back to what Ben was saying. He's an architect, so he's the expert, but you don't have to be a scientist to understand that if you need more air, warm air, right now it's the opposite, because we have a cold front. But when you have warm air to get into the building, so that you dilute the pollution, the bacterial pollution in the building, you're gonna have to cool it too, and that requires energy. And when you're at home, everybody says, don't open the door because you're going to lose energy. But that's what it is. And that's been a challenge, obviously, for everybody. And so we've tried to tackle that with the different techniques that Ben was mentioning.
Yeah. So I guess it can be difficult to continue these or start these new practices and stay fully sustainable, right? Given things like taking in more air from outside, right?
I'll go, like, for instance, I know that in classroom, I'll let Pilar jump on this, but we wanted to make sure that classroom were not overcooled. So that's also another challenge. It's thermal comfort for students, but at the same time, we had to run it 24/7 for a certain period of time to make sure that the air was flushed and that fresh air would be available for newcomers. So that was also another little challenge. But at the end, we didn't have any humidity or too cold indoor complaints. So.
Okay, so I have the third question of the evening, and I also want to, I guess it's kind of a follow-up to what you were saying, Teddy, so I'd like for you to answer it first. What innovative solutions are in the pipeline and may become available in the near future?
So I want to start with something that is more related to UHealth, the medical sector of University of Miami. We've been at the forefront of the research on COVID. And one of the things that we're exploring right now is other testing methods. We've done, among the things that we've done to make sure that, I think Pilar was mentioning, like before students, staff, and faculty would come back on campus, and we're still very, very low in percentage, they would have to be tested. And we have tracing going on. A lot of new test sites have been opened, some for students, various for students, and some for staff and faculty. And so the other testing methods than the current nasal swab that nobody likes, that's kind of what our medical staff and researchers are doing on the medical campus. In terms of the vendors we work with, we're reviewing how furniture can be used to create separation between workers, particularly in workstation with acrylic dividers. So there's a lot of new products that are going to be coming up soon. And same thing with the flooring, carpets, manufacturers. They're reviewing how carpet can be used to delineate space to help folks identify where they should and should not be. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. On top of everything that is sustainable, because we have a mandate of building only LEED silver as a minimum. The carpet obviously needs to be a recycled one, and to be recyclable, I mean, a lot of VOC-free paint. I mean, everything that's been mentioned before.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm sure that you guys have a little bit of a different perspective over at UHealth because, more on the research side of it. So I want to ask Pilar the same question. So you said that you were testing your staff and your residents quite frequently. So are there any like new testing technologies that are being introduced? So like rapid testing or innovative solutions?
Yeah, I mean, the most accurate for us is the PCR, the one that goes all the way up there. So that one is what we've been using. And by the way, all of this has been provided at no cost to us by the state. In the case of the residents, we're able to charge their insurance. So this has been at no cost to anyone, which is good. I think for us, because unlike maybe Teddy and Ben that might be building something new in the future that might incorporate, or at least maybe for Teddy specifically, be able to incorporate some technologies in building, our properties are what they are. So we're looking at improvements, or we're looking at bringing technology in. So telemedicine was always something that we kind of talked about as something that, we'll get to sometime in the future. That is today. So our residents are now doing telemedicine and seeing their doctors in that way. We're also looking at robots for socialization. So we have these cute little robots that can play music and interact with the residents. Some of them look like little dogs, little polar bears. So we're bringing those types of things into the building to help with socialization, but also help with, in the case of telemedicine, taking advantage of technologies that is there to enable residents to get the care that they need without necessarily seeing the doctor. So those are the sorts of things that we're looking at right now.
Cool. Interesting. How about you, Ben?
So first off, can I get in line for one of those socialization robots? Because I want one. That sounds so cool.
They're so
Actually,
cute.
if you go to any of our schools, maybe Anna could tell you about some of the robotics in schools is completely, I mean, if I had that when I was in school, it would have been amazing. So I just want to kind of speak to the bigger thing. I think we noticed a massive, massive change in air quality when the pandemic came around. We noticed that there were cities that had such horrible pollution issues since everybody was forced to stay at home, and we stopped as humans emitting like we did. We started to see some healing going on in the resilience of the environment. And I think that is probably the biggest thing we should learn from this, is that we can be, distance isn't an obstacle anymore. We don't have to be face to face with everybody. We can work remotely. We can learn remotely for realities in schools, administrations, and professionals. When we don't get on the road, we don't create as much pollution. And I think we can start to see how, I think this was a real eye opener for people, that just changing their behavior can actually make a difference. So I always try to focus on the positives and make sure we're doing it. But from my perspective as a building professional, I always like to look for the best sustainable solutions by looking backwards and saying, how can we simplify things? Passive natural ventilation, trickle vents, stack effect, those sorts of things that reduce our dependence on fans and chillers and HVAC, will start to have more of a biophilic environment of the outdoors coming inside, that maybe we could be a lot more resilient to things like this. And that's an old school solution. That's not new technology, but it's innovative for the way that we do things. Another one that has a lot to do with passive is called passive house. It's an approach that was started in Austria, I believe, where they create super insulated and super sealed buildings. And what that does is it effectively allows for most buildings, and we can actually see a passive house in a climate, in like climate zone 1, like we are right now, that don't need any cooling or heating. You just need to get that dedicated outdoor air, like I talked about with energy recovery ventilator, just to make sure your air doesn't get stale inside. And the idea of creating these buildings that are much more resilient to the stressors that happen around them, as far as the things that we do as humans or the things that the outside world does to it, is amazing. The other thing from my end of things also is zero energy schools are a reality. We seem to think of this as maybe we can do this in the future, but Osceola County has led the way, and we have a zero energy school in Osceola County that does not use a kilowatt hour from the grid. This is amazing, because You know, if we follow the Living Building Challenge, we can create buildings that are like the metaphor of the flower. They create their own energy and food, they store their own water, they treat their own waste, they adapt to their local climate, they're natural and beautiful. These are things that will make us, that are really innovative, that will make us more resilient towards the future of sustainability, the future of healthy buildings and healthy spaces. So, you know, we have, it seems impossible at times, but we have the ability to do it now. And from the immortal words of Gandhi, you know, we should all be the change we want to see in the world. So, you know, see what we want to do and be the change. Don't be, you know, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and say, we need to do things better, and let's be better.
Amazing. No, I really like everything you just said. all of your answers were amazing. I want to say really quick, we're going to take a break, like a 30-second, 45-minute or 45-second break. We're going to post a poll for you guys to answer really quick. And we have one more question after, and then everybody in the audience, I want you to know that we're going to do the Q&A at the end. So keep your questions coming, keep asking us. We are not ignoring you. We will address your questions at the end, and our panelists will get a chance to address that. Ben, I want to just point out some of what you just said really hits home for Dream and Green overall, because we empower individuals not just to act green and everything, but to actually implement what you learn, right? So, you know, some of our workshops in our Green Schools Challenge actually empowers you to go home and do the changes that you just learned about, you know, as opposed to just learning about it, which is still important. Learning about a topic and stuff like that is very important, but we always encourage people just to go out and actually do what they're learning. So that really hits home, and I think you are correct. We're not going to see a lot of change unless we all are doing our part individually, you know.
And push decision makers, push anybody that'll listen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let your voice be heard. So thank you everybody for answering the poll. We got, like I said, one more question. Anna, if you want to take it away.
So this question is open to all of our panelists, whoever wants to answer it first. Who are you currently collaborating with other organizations, sectors, or industries for the support that you need? Who would you like to see more collaboration from, and who would you like to collaborate with in the future that you think would really push forward any innovative solutions towards mitigating this crisis?
So is it rock, paper, scissors?
I can start if you want.
You're funny.
Go ahead, Teddy.
All right. I'm going to start with what personally I'd like to get advice from, and I'm going to echo a little bit what Ben was saying, what Pilar was saying. We need to find a way to harmonize those new challenges. So the whole teleworking, telemedicine, we're doing telemedicine also at UM. Is the good news about COVID, let's say, if we can talk about good news among all the deaths that people are experiencing right now. But it's also a revelation that we can actually combine buildings that are saving energy, that are more sustainable, and care for the health of the people. There's one certification that is out there, LEED obviously, and USGBC has done an amazing job over the years to become the #1 sustainable building certification. Ben mentioned the Living Building Challenge, but the WELL certification is really focused on health and the end users, the resident, the visitor experience in terms of thermal comfort, air, everything. And I hope that we'll see more and more of those certification in South Florida. It's not easy. I visited the Candida building in Georgia, which is a living challenge building. Beautiful building that exactly do what Ben was saying. It produces more energy and more water than it consumes. But it's in our region with the humidity that we have. It's a little bit more challenging. I don't think we have any in Florida right now. But it's what the challenge is, what the future holds for us. We need to get there. That's definitely it. In terms of what we've been doing, we reached out to various organizations, obviously the CDC, the state, the local authorities. We received a lot of help from them, a lot of guidance from our building perspective by ASHRI, which is the national organization for our HVAC system, APA, which is the leader in educational facilities. They've been super great at providing resources. And our facilities and emergency management teams have been also talking a lot, exchanging a lot on best practices with our ACC schools to discuss operational efficiency.
Great. Awesome. And Pilar and Ben, if you guys could keep your answers to less than 2 minutes so that we can get with the question and answers. Thank you.
I think something that we've seen is maybe the need for more intergenerational. I'd love to see more intergenerational buildings where not just the seniors are living here, but that we have everyone living together. And I think that that could be something really great for the future. We're going to be partnering quite a bit with pharmacies to get vaccinations done. So that's going to continue. But I think looking to the future of my industry, the need to be affordable is really key. A lot of seniors were at home, unable to enter our properties because they're just not affordable. And they suffered at home just as much as, you know, our residents suffered in our properties. But I think, you know, affordability is going to be a big key. And how do we work together to bring more affordability for seniors in the future?
So from our perspective, again, I love this question because it starts asking a question of a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary team. From our terms, it always comes from a design perspective. So multidisciplinary is something we've done in the past where it's usually architects and engineers. Those are the usual suspects. But the idea of interdisciplinary has been really, really, really powerful. Now we're having design charrettes very early on before we've drawn a line on the page where we have ecologists, climate experts, resilience experts, paleontologists, hydrologists, building science experts, cutting edge technology experts, all sorts of these people who are just experts in their field who've always had blinders on and been in their own rooms. Now we're sitting around a table and having an open discussion around how a building can embody the things that they hold so dearly to themselves in their work. And it's incredibly powerful because as you know, the architect as the orchestrator of that, or the sustainable design professional as the orchestrator of that, just is able to bring in so many different opinions. And the idea of design is good at answering questions we ask. If we keep asking better questions, we'll get better answers. So again, I'll leave you on the words from one of my favorite authors, William McDonough. He's an architect as well. He's been incredibly inspiring to me. And the idea he says is design is the ultimate signal of human intention. So the question he asks is, would we ever intentionally design anything that's a detriment to human health, a detriment to the environmental health of the world around us? Why would we? That's been our past, but what can we do now to change, to shape a healthier and regenerative future is really what we need to do and as we move forward.
I like that. There's some really interesting words. Thank you. So first, I want to say thank you to the panelists. You guys are great. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everybody that's here. We're not done yet. We're about to do the question and answer. I just wanted to say that. I want to say thank you to the events committee as well from Dream and Green that helped plan this event. And, you know, they did an amazing job. So I'll start with the first question that we have from the audience. So let me set the scene. They work at a nonprofit wildlife hospital where sometimes they have to work close proximity with people. What is your advice for protecting staff at a privately owned workspace or a nonprofit like that?
Pilar, I think you're best to answer that one first.
I can tell you, you got to wear your masks all the time, over the nose and pressed up against your face. And they need to be surgical masks, to be honest, not the cloth ones. So we are actually obligated to wear surgical masks. And you have to wash your hands and you have to maintain social distance whenever you can. But if you can incorporate some testing to just keep the environment safe, I would say I would go that route as well.
One thing,
and work outside.
And work outside. That's a great idea.
One thing I'd like to add is something we don't hear enough, probably because CDC insisted from the beginning on masks, social distancing, and washing your hand. It's also not touching your face. I think it's so important because the way, if you have a mask and you wear it properly and it's a good mask, perfect. If you try to practice social distancing, perfect. You can wash your hand. But if you touch things and then you touch your face, that's that's when things happen. So probably the best is to have that in mind, especially for workers. It's easy to train them. So if you have a team, that would be the fourth pillar, maybe I mean the fifth, because we have also obviously testing and tracing, but the fifth pillar would be don't touch your face.
We touch our face so many times.
I was about to say, I've been the worst during this whole thing. I'm just like,
we're gonna call you out.
I'm also at home alone, not going out. No. Also, we just dropped a survey in the chat for everybody that's participating. Please take it. We love to hear back from you guys on all of our events. Anna, if you want to do the next question from the audience.
So the next question that we have for you guys is asking, how do you educate and how do you change behaviors? So in terms of education, since I'm a high school student, high school students are traditionally more receptive because we're in the environment for receiving new education. So how would you advise people to educate older people or people that are less likely to break their habits?
Well, I can quickly start with this because it was a challenge. Honestly, student residents, they're between you're gonna graduate soon, Anna, so 19 to 23 years old. It's hard. It's hard to tell people stay in your room, don't do this, don't do that. And the reason why some of our counterparts in the ACC world had to send people back, students back home, was because the students didn't really follow the rules. At we were lucky to have a really amazing student body who really followed the rules. We had a few exceptions, during the break. It's hard to tell people not to go party during the break, but the message was there. The president was actually sending the message. Now, if some students decided to party in a crowd, that it happened. But from there we had quarantine protocols and sending food to those students that were quarantined. There was a whole system in place. But education for us has been also key through volunteering students, just like what you do, Anna. That we hired actually I think something like 50 students that were health ambassadors for COVID. So if a group of students were not wearing their mask properly, that student would go and ask them. Our UMPD police department also had the same mission, approaching people that were not socially distancing or didn't wear their mask to do that.
So really quick, panelists, I know it's already 7 p.m. So if any of you guys have to head out, feel free. But and anybody in the audience, if you guys have to head out, we would love to keep you for a little bit longer if you guys are willing to take this poll that we just put up real quick. We put a survey in the chat and for Ben and Pilar to address this question. And we have one more after that if you guys have time, but it's totally okay if you guys got to head out.
I think when COVID first hit, there was a lot of news about, oh my gosh, this is so bad for the seniors. Oh, the seniors are going to die from it. And what we started getting was our staff, which are younger, getting sick, and some of them getting very, very sick. And I think that with COVID, we can't tiptoe around. We do have to talk about the severe consequences that could happen with COVID. And I think that that's what has helped us. Not only the regulatory side, obviously we have regulations in our industry, we have to follow them, but talking very honestly about this could kill you, and it has killed people, has been a very effective deterrent for people doing the wrong thing. It works.
Would you like to add anything, Ben?
Again, I mirror a lot of what Teddy was saying. I mean, you can imagine a group of high school kids trying to keep them social distanced, or trying to keep a bunch of elementary kids social distanced, or think about the fact of sitting in a school when you're at any age, K to 12, with a mask on your face all day long, trying to concentrate, trying to pay attention, trying to learn, trying to socialize, trying to do all these things. And I can't imagine, Anna, how it's been for you. And you guys have become so resilient. Your generation is so resilient. It's amazing. But again, a lot of this comes from, we try the best we can to create the environments with which they can be as safe as possible. But at the end of the day, whenever you're getting together in groups, there is a risk. And our team at MDCPS has been on triage. Making sure when we get a test result that's positive, we have to isolate, segregate, and do lots of things. I'm sure Anna's seen a couple of her classmates just go home out of nowhere, and you go, whoa, what happened? So it's difficult, and again, until we get this under control with a vaccine, it's out there, and you kind of wish that people who got it just looked different to you. They turned purple. You'd stay away from them, but it's not that way. And it's a very, very difficult question that you can only hope to move forward with the best success you can.
Awesome. Well, okay, so I'll go through this last question really quick, only because I really like it, because it touches on things that I've thought about before. Sometimes, you walk through a building or past a building at night and they have their lights on for no reason. Nobody's there, So this person asked, MDCPS seems to be using a lot of energy sometimes in buildings when nobody's there. They keep the rooms too cold, leaking faucets in the bathrooms, lights left on at night sometimes. How could you partner up with people in charge and potentially make changes that help?
So
in that
I'll take this one first, because I know who asked the question. Miss Jorda is a phenomenal human being. I can't say how much I love her out at her school. So anyway, we've talked a lot about this, and this is a difficulty. It's a systemic issue. Again, the biggest problem we have 400 schools, so it's a difficult thing to make sure that we look after every single one as if it's our own house. And there is a certain amount of lights that have to stay on at all times for code purposes. That's just to make sure that people can exit buildings properly. But what you're seeing is probably more than that. And this becomes where we try to make sure that we build in as much automation as we can, so that these things aren't human-based. Because if you leave it to the last person out of the room to shut off all the lights, they may not be in the right mindset to do it. So the more we've been trying to, and I'm sure Teddy's seen this a lot with automation, with energy management systems that both control all the stuff with the HVAC, also lighting, it can do a lot of things for us. With leaks are always a problem, because you never know it's happening until you can look at the water bill, or you don't know you're overusing energy until you look at the energy bill. Our schools don't see those. And that's a downfall of our system. And we're actually implementing new tools called Energy Cap, where the schools will now be able to see their energy and their water use, and they'll be able to see where they should be on a curve of where they should be in every month. And then they can start actually acting as an informed group of individuals. So at home, if you, as Teddy said, or if you left the door open, you'd know it, because your energy bill would be a lot higher that month, or if you left the faucet on, or whatever it is. So now we can better track these things, so we'll have more eyes on it. And that, I think, is the single biggest thing, is that to make people aware, to know that we spend $10,000 a month on an energy bill for a school. That's mind-boggling. You don't think about that. You think about spending $100 at home. So again, these are the biggest things, is awareness, implementing as much as we can from an innovation perspective, and just making sure that everybody has the understanding and behavior.
Awesome. Pilar, Teddy, any other last comments?
No, Friday we're gonna have a wee lab at UM.
We do have a wee lab on Friday. I'll be presenting about water and energy in collaboration with Teddy and UM. If anybody wants to join, you're welcome.
Kind of piggyback on what Ben was saying, I know that Martin from Miami-Dade Water and Sewer will be there, talk about water conservation. One of the main problems, honestly, for energy and water actually, is to the details, you know, at the building level, at the floor level, at the room level, how people are behaving, how can we measure, and then maybe later on implement automation, for instance. But we first need to track things. So sub-metering, instead of just having 1 meter for the water and 1 meter for the electricity for a whole tower, having, you know, meters at every level, every section of the building. That's how you can really improve things. And actually, Martin told me there is an ordinance in Miami-Dade County that asks people, normally multifamily houses, they need to have multifamily property, they need to have some meters for water. I don't know a lot of them that have some meters for water, but that's where we need to go.
Awesome. Well, Pilar, if you wanted to say any other last comments, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming. Thank you, you guys, for staying a little bit extra. It means a lot to hear from your expertise and from your different perspectives, honestly.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you, everybody. So we have our social media there up for you guys for a few seconds. And if you want to follow us, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us and just let us know any questions, any topics you would like to hear about in the future, if there's any that you didn't express with us yet. And hopefully we'll be doing more of these for you guys to be able to get more information. And honestly, thank you, Anna. You did a great job. Thank you so much for being co-moderator with me. Dreaming Green thanks you, and you were amazing.
Thank you so much for this.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
You're what gives me faith in the future. People like you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm out of here. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.